Hi everybody, we are live. Welcome to the episode number 5 of Feature is Live. So every Tuesday we discuss about a specific feature of our favorite no-code, low-code platform, DaDaBIK. So if you're new here, DaDaBIK, as I just said, is a no-code, low-code platform, one of the very first no-code, low-code platform. You can use it to build applications. Sorry, my my backup screen started to play my own audio. Sorry for this little technical problem. So I was saying you can use DaDaBIK to produce application internal tools, but also other kind of applications with little or no coding. So again, every Tuesday we learn something about DaDaBIK. We try to go deep into a feature of DaDaBIK. So if you want to keep updated, subscribe the channel, and if you want to be notified, click the notification bell. My name is Eugenio Tacchini. I am, as most of you already know, the founder of DaDaBIK. So I've been working in this low-code, no-code area for many years. And I also work in academia, teaching databases and data science in college. So let's start with the topic of this episode, that is permissions. So let me, in case you still don't have DaDaBIK, and in case you want to try it, dadabik.com/download, you can start a monthly subscription. First 30 days are free, and you can cancel anytime, even during the free trial. Permissions. So here I created a document containing all I want to tell you about permissions. And I realized that there is a lot of things to say, more than I expected. So I finally decided to split this topic into 2 episodes. So today we will discuss the first part, probably till here, something like that. And next Tuesday, next part, next half. Okay? But let's start trying to define what is a permission in this context. Well, basically, anything that has to do with what your users, the users of your application, can or cannot do. Okay? This is, a general definition of permission in the context of a web application or an application in general. So the application I'm using to discuss permissions today is the usual one. It's an inventory system, a simple inventory system I created with DaDaBIK. So this is almost no code inventory system I created with DaDaBIK, with a dashboard, our warehouse. For each product we have quantity, estimated value. We can register inbound and outbound movements. We have suppliers. We can insert supplier, and we have an approval mechanism. We have customers, obviously, and we have an understock view that allows us to keep track of the products that are currently on the stock. This is just one example of application you can create with DaDaBIK, but you create many other kind of application. I'm using this one, and this is the one I use all the time for this series. I think you're now familiar with this application, so this can help explaining the topic. So permissions. DaDaBIK has a very detailed permissions model, very granular. There are many aspects of an application you can control in terms of permissions, in terms of giving your user the ability to do or not to do things in your application. So the very first thing we have to discuss is how users and groups are represented in DaDaBIK. So here I have an admin folder where I can see the users and the user groups that are part of this application. I see these two items in the menu, users and group, only because I'm logged in as root. That is an admin user. Otherwise, I don't see this part of the application. But we will discuss this later. For the moment, I just want to show you what a user is, how a user is represented in DaDaBIK. So a user is typically represented by username and password pair. It's better if we go into the edit view so we can see all the fields. So I was saying username and password. Okay. Now you see the password blank just because we are in the edit form, so we don't see the actual current password, but we can change it. Username and password, and optionally you may have first name, last name, email as additional information. Also, each user belongs to a main group. Here we have admin, employees, and managers. These are the three groups we have, and if we go here, we will see the three groups. All right. And what else? Why is this important? Why the group is important? Because for many things, the group a user belongs to determines the permissions the user has. Okay, remember this part. Not only you have a main group for each user, you also have other additional groups the user belongs to. So a user in DaDaBIK can belong to multiple groups, and we will see that later. But in case you have, multiple permissions about different groups that overlap in a way, DaDaBIK uses the most permissive strategy to compute the actual permission. But I'm going into too much details right now. So let's save this for later. So users and groups. This is what you need to know for the moment. You have in your application the list of the users and the list of the groups the users can belong. Okay. So how how the users are registered into the application. Well, there are several ways. The most common ways is that an admin user create a new user of the application, okay, with username, optionally first and last name, email, other groups optional, and password. Okay, this is one thing, one method, the most common one. However, you can also enable, there is a configuration parameter you should enable. You can enable self-registration. In that case, users can self-register. Obviously, they won't become admin users. They will be added to a default group that you decide. All right? So admin registration or self-registrations. How users authenticate in DaDaBIK? Well, the most common way is that they just use the login form, and DaDaBIK checks if in the list of users there is a user having that passwords. Obviously, the password is encrypted in the database, and if yes, the user is logged in. Physically, in terms of databases, so what you see here, user and groups, is in the table. I'm looking into the database that is, behind this application. These are in the DaDaBIK users and DaDaBIK groups table. All right, good. So this is the standard way. However, you have other ways to handle user and groups. This was the standard one. Then we have custom users table. You may need to have your own custom users and groups tables. Why? Well, maybe because you want to share that table with an application created with DaDaBIK and another application, for example. So you can tell DaDaBIK, there are configuration parameters to do that. You can tell DaDaBIK to use not the DaDaBIK users and DaDaBIK groups table, but your own tables. You will define in your config custom file the fields you have in your custom table, so that DaDaBIK knows where to select, where to read for the information it needs. Okay, and that's another option. An additional option is LDAP. So especially in big corporation, maybe you have LDAP servers to represent, to register users in your information system. You can set DaDaBIK, again, there are configuration parameters to do that, to use, instead of the standard login process, to query your own LDAP server. Okay, so the login will be through your LDAP server. Then we have a WordPress authentication. So you can, you know that, well, maybe you don't, but let me tell you that you can integrate DaDaBIK into a WordPress website. For example, I could embed this entire application into a WordPress page, and I can share the WordPress authentication with DaDaBIK, so that when a user is logged in the WordPress site, is automatically logged in DaDaBIK as well. Okay, and very last, we have HTTP API. In this case, instead of logging in through the login form from another application, so without using this actual application, but only using the DaDaBIK API from another application, you authenticate with your username and password, and then you execute operations allowed by the DaDaBIK API. Okay, so this was just to talk about users and groups and how users authenticate in DaDaBIK. Now let's go into the core of this episode. So we have here the different type of permissions in DaDaBIK. First one, developer permissions. What does it mean? The permission of changing the application itself, not the data. So I'm not talking about changing the price of a product. This would be changing the data. I'm talking about changing the application. For example, changing the label price and write something different here, or remove a column here, remove the price column from this view. The development permission is allows you to do anything I can do here when I click on edit this app. When I click on edit this app, the admin area appears, and here I can do many things about this application. To access the admin area, I need the development permissions. And by default, and there's no way to change it in DaDaBIK, only users belonging to the admin group, that is a group created by default when you install DaDaBIK, only have the development permission. All the other users don't even see the edit this app button. Let's make a test. So log out. I log in as Bob. Bob is not an admin user. I think it's belonging to the employees group. I don't remember, but for sure not to the admin group. And as you can see, there's no edit this application button, right? And also, if I try to reload the admin area here, so let's say that I have the URL of the admin area and I try to access it, I reload, the system asks me for username and password because I'm not an admin. Okay, and this was the development permissions. Second type of permissions, the permission to add and edit users and groups. Add and edit users and groups. So if let me log out and log in again as root. So if we are using the standard built-in users and groups table in DaDaBIK, as we said before, the permission to add new user, to delete existing users, or to modify existing users. Like, for example, I don't know, I can Alice, maybe Alice is changing her email, and I can just, change the email here. Okay. This permission, again, exactly as the development permission, is enabled just for the users belonging to the admin group. Okay. So if you are a user belonging to the admin group, by default you have the development permission and the ability to add other users and groups, or delete / modify existing users and groups. Okay, this second thing I just said could change in the future, this one. So the fact that only people belonging to the admin users can work on users and groups. Why? Because I realized that not very often, but sometimes when you, especially when you build, complex application, the developers, maybe let's make an example with inventory system. Let's say that I develop this inventory system for a client, and then I deploy the application to the client. I'm still the developer. So if the user, if my client want to change something in the application, they ask me to do that, and I will log in with my developer account, and I will do anything that is needed. However, maybe the client want to manage users and groups. Why? Because he is the owner of the business, and he or she wants to add new employees, new managers, or change them, and so on and so forth. So sometimes, quite often, actually, you want to give user and groups the ability to change user and groups to people who are not admin, not belonging to the admin group, but in a way they are admin of the application. Okay. At the moment, you can do that only with a workaround. There is an old video where I explain. I will add the video, the URL of the video, the link to the video in the description of this live. There is an old video where I explain how to do that with a workaround using views. And it is an old video, but the main, the way I used is still valid. So maybe you will see something that is now has changed, but the most important things are still valid. So you can do that. But in the future, maybe I will add the possibility for non-admin user to work on users and groups. I still don't know why, and I'm open to suggestions. One thing I was thinking about it was not to work on groups for this permission, but on on each user. So basically here, for each user, like Alice, for example, I would have an additional checkbox telling me if Alice can also add, remove, and modify users and groups. Just one checkbox for each user. Because, at least in my experience, very often this role is dedicated just to a very limited set of users. Maybe there are other users belonging to the same group, but only a few of them are kind of delegated to work on user and groups. Okay, again, if you have suggestions, they are very, very welcome. Okay, so well, obviously, if you have any questions or comments, just write in the chat. Otherwise, I'll move on to the next topic that is very big, and is probably the last one we will discuss today. Table and field CRUD permissions. Table and field CRUD permissions. Let me remove this for the moment. And okay. CRUD permission. So what is CRUD? First of all, probably you know that already. CRUD stands for create, read, update, delete. These are the 4 basic operations you execute on a database, typically on a relational database. And obviously we have a permission model that can handle the 4 operations. How? Let's see how. Let me open the admin area. And let me click on permissions. Okay. So by default, in DaDaBIK, since many years, granular permissions are enabled. What does it mean? It means that you can set for each table and field the permissions that each group has. So let's say that, for example, let's take the products table. Products. So let's select products here. And as group, we have the 3 groups. Let's say admin. So we are changing the permissions for basically in this way for ourselves, because right now I'm logged in as a root, and root is as you probably remember, root belongs to the admin group. Okay, so very often for the admin group, you set you enable all the possible permissions, but and so it would make sense to set the permissions for other groups, but it's easier to show you the effect of this by changing the permissions of the admin group. So this is what I'm doing right now. So products. For each table and group, we have table level permissions and field level permissions. On the table level, remember that this page and this menu item has a related table, the products table, containing, in this case, our products. On the table level, I can choose if the admin users can read, delete, edit, create, details, we will see what is details, and CSV. So, for example, as you can see from here, I can create a new product, right? If I click here, I will create a new product. Why I can do that? Because the create permission is set to yes for the group admin and the table product. if I change it to no and save, you will see that this button will disappear. Okay? I can't create products anymore. All the other, let's see all the other permissions. Delete, well, literally means that I can or I cannot delete records from this table. Edit means that I can edit records of this table, yes or not. Okay, I know the reason of this error. Don't pay attention to that because it's not related to what we are doing. So delete, edit, create, details. What is details? Details is this page. If you click on this icon, you see, details page, a page that is not an edit form, is just a read-only page containing the information about this product. If I set this to no, the details page is not accessible anymore. Okay? CSV means that I can export this data to CSV. Yes or not? And finally, well, actually, it should be the first permission to mention. Read. Read permission literally means that I can read the data in this table. So without read permission, I cannot even access the data. Actually, if I remove the read permission, I don't even see the products table in the menu. Okay? I could still see the products table if it is used as a lookup table or in a master details form, but this is something that I don't want to go into deep discussion. If you want, here you can click here and read some additional information about read permissions. Okay. Additional thing I want to say, maybe you have noticed when I open the drop-down menus that in addition to yes and no, sometimes I have my. What is my? My is related to the owner permission. That is something we will discuss next time. So for the moment, forget about my and think just about yes and no as option. All right, good. This was the table level permission. Field level permissions. Not only you set permissions for the table, but also for each of the fields composing the table. Let me give you an example. Let's say that, let's go back to products. Okay, edit for admin is allowed, yes. So I can edit products, but let's say that I don't want to allow users belonging to the admin group to edit the name. They can change the cost, the price, the picture, whatever, but not the name. Okay, in this case, I allow the edit on the table level, but for name, I can remove the edit permission and save. So this is the new version. Sorry again for the error, don't pay attention to that. So the name disappeared from the form, right? For edit, you have an additional option. You can set it as yes, but disabled. If you do that, the name is in the form, but is disabled. So if I click on it, I cannot edit the name. I cannot change the name. All right? So remember that if you set, enabling the permission on the field level makes sense only if on the table level the permission is enabled. So if you have all the fields with edit yes, but on the table level edit is no, the user won't be able to edit data in this table. All right. Let's see the other permissions. For each field, you have edit, yes or not. You have results. What is results? Here you decide if a field will appear in the results grid or not. The results grid is the built-in grid that DaDaBIK produces for each table or view to show the data. The one you see when you click on a menu item here. Okay, so for example, if I want to remove cost from this grid, I go here, cost, and I remove it from here. And if I reload this part, cost is gone. Okay, so results, edit, create. As you can imagine here, you set if a field will appear or not in the insert form, in the create form. Details, if a field will appear or not in the details page. Quick search and advanced search, if the field will appear in the quick search and in the advanced search form. What does it mean? This is the quick search form, the one you see on the top of the results grid. Typically here you have 2 or 3 fields, the one you use more often. The advanced search form typically instead is a more complex form where you want to show more fields. All right. And finally, CSV. You want to set here if the field and its data will appear in the exported CSV. All right. Let me drink some water. And let me check my notes here, just to be sure I'm not forgetting anything. Okay, table. Okay, no. All right. So this was granular permissions. Well, let me add a couple of things before switching to non-granular permissions. Here you see other 2 buttons, copy permissions and show user permissions. So what is copy permission? Copy permission allows you to copy from one group to another the permissions. So instead of configuring, especially if you have a lot of tables with a lot of fields and maybe a lot of groups, configuring permissions could be boring. Next time we will see templates and other little things you can use to save time, but today we will see copy permissions. Copy permissions allows you literally to copy the permissions from one group to another. Let's say that you have just set the permissions very detailed for one group, and you know that a different group has almost the same permission except from a few differences. So what you want to do is you copy I don't know, for example, here from employees to managers, and by clicking here, all the permissions will be copied. For a single table view, or if you leave it blank, for all tables, views, and custom pages. We still have to talk about custom pages, so for the moment, forget about them. But just focus on tables and views. Probably you know what is a view, but even if you don't, think about a view as a sort of table. Okay? So if I leave this blank, everything in terms of permissions will be copied from employees to managers. Anything related to tables, views, and custom pages. Otherwise, I can choose to copy only for a specific element. Remember one important thing. You are copying permissions right now. This doesn't mean that these two groups after the copying will be synchronized in a way. No. If you change manually the permissions, the changes will apply only to the group you change the permission for, obviously. Okay. Another copying mechanism is this one. In this time, you copy from table to table. So maybe you want to say, okay, customers and countries must have exactly the same permissions. This would be very weird because customers and countries are completely different tables, but a more common example would be you create a table, you create a view that is a subset of the table, so all the fields except from 2, you want to copy exactly the same permissions. You use this tool, and DaDaBIK only for the intersection of the fields will copy the permissions. All right. And the last tool is show user permissions. So here, for the table, I don't know, products, we choose a user, Bob, and this is a read-only page. We will see for table level and field level, yes, no, whatever. The permissions that Bob has on the products table. Maybe you're wondering why this is useful, because Bob is, I don't remember, let's say Bob is a manager, okay? So if Bob is a manager, I can just go here, products group managers, and I will see, the permissions. You are right, but do you remember that at the beginning of this live, I discussed the fact that a user can belong to multiple groups, right? In that case, things are more complex than this one. So if Bob belongs to 2 groups, with show user permission, you will see the final permissions computed by DaDaBIK considering both the groups. All right. Okay. So very last topic of today. We have discussed table and field CRUD permissions, granular version. We will also see non-granular version. So sometimes you don't need this complexity. So granular permission, as we said, means that for each table and field and each combination of table, field, and group, you have a permission, right? But sometimes you want something more easy to manage. In that case, you can, let me change my view here. You can set enable granular permissions to 0 in your config custom file. So if you set granular permissions to 0, what is going to happen? Let's see the permissions table, permissions page. This is way more simple. Basically, with granular permission disabled, for each table, you decide if the table has read, create, edit, delete, details, CSV permissions for all the users. So you cannot say that employees can edit products, but managers cannot. If you enable edit, the edit permissions will be enabled on products for everybody. Okay? For complex application, this is not probably what you want, but for simple applications, it may work. Okay? Forget this second part because it has to do with all permissions that we will see next time. Okay, this is for table. And how do you decide if a field will appear or not in various forms? If granular permission is disabled, you do that from the form configurator. For historical reason, that's again the same error. Don't worry about that. For historical reason, if granular permission is disabled, you choose from here, for example, price, products, price. Here, I decide, and I do it for all the users, not specific for each group. Is the price of the product available in the search form? Yes or not? Is available in the results page? Yes or not? And so on and so forth. Okay, from here for all the users. Sorry again. Let's go back to permissions, and that's basically all I wanted to discuss here. We are here, right? We have discussed half, well, maybe less than half of the topics. Next time we will discuss about automatic permission settings, so how to automate the settings of the permissions. We will discuss about custom page permissions, when you create a custom page not based on a table or a view. And what else? We will see custom button permissions, because in DaDaBIK we have buttons, custom buttons. We use, okay, let me re-enable the granular permissions to show you, otherwise this won't work. Suppliers. I just want to show you a button. Okay, this is a custom button, approve selected suppliers. We have permissions for the button, so we need a way to you know, to set that this button can be used only by Bob, for example. This is custom button permissions, and we have two ways to do that. And finally, row level permissions. This is also very important. Sometimes you want to set permissions not for the schema of the database or for the operation, but on the data itself. Okay, so for example, let me give you an example. Let's say that I have a system, I develop a system, an application for a multi-tenant shop. Okay, we have several shops and a system that can manage all these shops. Maybe we want to show to each user only the products that at the moment are in the shop they are linked to, let's say. Okay, that's an example. Another example, let's take a sales management application, a CRM. If I'm an employee of the company and I add a potential customer to the database, my system, my CRM could be set up in a way that I can only modify and delete my own potential customers. My own means the ones I created. Okay, that's another example of row level permissions. And yeah, that's it. So once again, I remind you that if you don't have DaDaBIK and you want to try it, dadabik.com/download. You can start a monthly subscription, and the first 30 days are free. And yeah, that's it for today. We will see next Tuesday for the second part related to permission. So see you on Tuesday. Ciao.